I'm Jessica Hunter. Tonight I'm going to talk about backpacking, the gear that makes it fun and, sorry not sorry, resilient architecture. But first, you should know I'm an expert at living in houses, not because I'm an architect, but because I've lived in a lot of them. In the last 15 years, I've lived in 9 cities, in 18 rentals, and 6 climate zones. That's more than 1.5 years per city, but less than a year per rental. So it played out different. You get the idea. We're gonna fast forward to 2009. I'm living in Pittsburgh in a Craigslist apartment with roommates I've never met, and it's freezing. Nobody can afford a heating bill. I'm sleeping on an air mattress with an electric blanket for survival. It was so cold that my olive oil started to freeze. I learned then that homes can be extremely uncomfortable. Now it's New Year's Eve in Colorado, the weekend of the Marshall Fire. By 8 p.m., I have 2 evacuees moved in. It's 15 degrees and dropping outside. I can't afford my heating bill, but I've lost power entirely. How long before my olive oil is freezing again? We build homes that rely on active systems, and our homes fail without them. So why am I looking to backpacking? Because it doesn't have a heating bill, it relies on dumb technology, and it's smart in the way a Nest thermostat just isn't. And that's the kind of house I want to live in. Okay, Backpacker's Guide to Survival, rule number 1, plan for the best, plan for the worst. Rockies or the desert, I don't care, your gear is entirely dependent on terrain and weather. We don't just pack for normal conditions, we pack for the unknowable. We pack so that best case we're comfortable, and worst case we survive. We do the same with our homes. We don't build homes in Santa Fe the way we build them in New Orleans or Denver, hot, cold, dry, humid, cloudy, sunny, whatever. We take it all. Planning for the best is designing for the most typical conditions and including some buffer. So what is planning for the worst in architecture? It's considering our most extreme weather, hot and cold, and removing just for a minute grid-powered heating and cooling from the equation. Because history has taught us that crazy, unknowable things happen, and usually they happen all at once and at the worst possible time. So we need to ask ourselves, what conditions do we want our house to survive? When all the systems fail and everything is at its worst, and then what benefits do we gain by taking that approach for the full life of that house when all systems are performing as intended? Best case, we're comfortable. Worst case, we survive. The Backpacker's Guide to Survival, rule number 2. All solutions are systems. It doesn't stop with a list of things. How those things relate to each other is just as important as the things themselves. They are systems that keep us warm, that keep us dry, and that help us sleep at night. So a few years ago, I was backpacking through Yosemite, and my sleeping pad began deflating halfway through the night. I went from sleeping warmly to waking up freezing. The nights did not get colder, but the cold ground was literally seeping into my body. My sleeping system was broken. Our homes are also made of complex systems. Weather-resistant barriers, air barriers, vapor retarders, wrapping structures stuffed full of insulation, punctured by windows and infilled with pipes and ducts and memories. But just like a sleeping bag is only as good as the pad you pair it with, a system is only as strong as its weakest link. So we have to ask ourselves, is our system working? Is it balanced? If not, how do we adjust it? Otherwise, all the fancy and very expensive sleeping bags and building insulation in the world will not keep you warm. All right, last one, Backpacker's Guide to Survival, rule number 3. Data-driven design is hella cool. So we've adjusted our design criteria and we thought about systems. So now what? We learn. We learn and we learn and we learn. The market of adventure gear is driven by a feedback loop. Make a thing, test it till it fails, make a new, better thing, and do it over and over and over again. At the same time, that data gets shared loudly and widely, making buyers increasingly savvy in the performance they can expect. At our best, we can do the same in the building world, and we do. We test building components. We use energy models to iterate design performance. We use blower door tests and inspections to test construction on site. But where the heck does all that data go? Adventure gear buyers know how performance is measured, so they get to decide what criteria they care about. We need to ask ourselves, how do we learn from the data we already have? And how do we share that data, publish that data, so that buyers get to decide when performance matters to them and exactly how much it's worth? Adventurers have used all kinds of gear over the ages, and we've seen broad improvements. Did old gear keep backpackers from embracing the elements? Fuck no. But would those adventurers upgrade, trade up for lighter gear that kept them more comfortable? I would. We have lived in all kinds of shelters over the millennia. In the beginning, our shelters kept us dry, they blocked the wind, and they protected us from the things that go bump in the night. We used fires to keep us warm. Centuries later, our shelters do a whole lot more, and they can do more still. Resilient homes create resilient communities, communities that can withstand the unknowable more safely with less damage. Resilient homes are more comfortable, they demand less of the grid, they have cleaner air, they keep us safe in the worst of times, and they keep us comfortable in the best of times. It's the kind of home I want to live in. Thank you very much.